What's up, everyone? Kris and Sam from Noizze here, and today we are reviewing the brand new Rivers of Nihil self-titled record. Sam, how are we, sir?
We are well. We are off work. I went to the dentist today, and I'm sure I've made this comment before. I really dislike how they sit you in a chair and just like torture you like you're holding government secrets, and then afterwards tell you to be better to yourself. It's like you just treat you
Yeah.
like a CIA operative for like
And
30
charge you
minutes.
£25 for the privilege.
Do you know what I mean? Get the screwdriver out my mouth. Like, what's
Yeah.
going on? So that was me today. I literally was spitting blood for the 20 minutes to follow, like I'd lost a fight with Mike Tyson today. It's
Would you have a
horrendous.
tooth extraction or something?
No, I had a deep clean, and they go right to the gum, and then my gums bleed.
Right, wow, okay. I
Yeah, so
thought you
that's
was having like a
pretty.
checkup.
No, no, I have to check up, and then 3 months they're like, "Oh, come back for a," because I've got wisdom without this dentist hour on the Noise podcast. I've got like wisdom teeth, but they're like right at the back, so they only come through. So I have to get deep clean because they're not coming through and all that type of stuff. And then the woman's like, "Oh, I need to just get here and whatever," and it's just relentless and it's horrible.
Positives, Metallica tickets booked for us today. And mate, let's say
Yes.
let's say this sentence: knock loose, Gajira, Metallica. Now
It's not
that's now
it's not
that's
bad,
a
is
show.
it?
Now
It's
that's a
not bad,
show.
is it? It's not so bad, is it? I wish Metallica would book it on a Saturday, but the that is the only sort of issue that I'm having with the whole event. But I guess they are in their 60s and they take the extra day for rest. Because I looked preemptively at the Friday, but then I thought me and you getting out of work and then trying to get down to London in like three and a
Not
half
happening.
hours on a
Not
Friday
happening.
night. It just wouldn't have worked, would it? It wouldn't have taken place in the slightest. Plus, we'd have ended up missing Not Loose anyway. Um, And then yeah, so also we'd have been moshing in our work gear. That would have been a hilarious thing. So, absolutely. Wales is a great time to be alive in anyway. And shout to Metallica for not just like rolling out some generic random support act that nobody really is interested in. They're making like a genuine effort to turn these into real events. Knocked Loose Gojira and Metallica is like comparable to Download Saturday.
Yeah, mate, that's an unbelievable trip. I'm ecstatic about it. That's incredible. Not loose in the stadium, amazing, good for them. Kajira in the
Mm.
stadium, we've bespoke for a while, but whether they're ready to take that next leap, and then Metallica in the stadiums, it's just a Sunday for them. But
Also, and I can't believe I'm saying this into light of today's, but after the conversation we had a few months ago about the back to the beginning concert ticket stuff, Metallica charged £110 for tickets. Like that's the raw ticket price plus the extra stuff for like, booking fee and whatever. So it was 125 quid when if you saw those bands separately, you wouldn't pay that amount of money. So you're actually getting like if I was seeing Gajira on their own, it'd probably be 40, 50 quid. Metallica on their
yeah,
own, if they were just playing on their own, it'd be at least 80 or 90 pounds. Knocked loose, now a 30 gig experience at the very least in this country now. So you're actually like kind of getting like a good deal, beset against how ripped off everybody else seems to feel. So shout to Metallica.
yeah, man,
Yeah.
shout because I feared those ticket prices.
Yeah, I was
I
like
had
150 to 200. I thought that's what I'd be charging.
Yeah, I'm buzzing about the absolute banger of a show that's going to be. What a tour lineup, and it's an amazing opportunity for Not Loose. I'm really excited for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. They're doing it right as well, and this will be a big deal for them to connect with a different kind of audience. But yeah, I'm really excited too, mate. Really excited too.
Before we dig into Rivers of Nile, let's tell you how you can support us. You can do that by liking slash following on YouTube. You can follow the General Noise platform on X at Noise UK. You can do the same thing on Instagram at Noise UK and the same thing on Blue Sky at Noise UK. And you can follow the Noise Podcast Network on X at Noise Podcast. Let's get started then, Sam. New Rivers of Nile record, self-titled. It is out May 30th via Metal Blade Records. It's the band's fifth album and the follow-up to 2021's The Work. I think it was out in 2021, The Work. 2021's The Work. Um, Rivers feel like a band I've been trying to convince you on for a while. And with the exception of like the first, oh my God, they're using a saxophonist moment on Where Owls Know My Name. I've never managed to get you. Any particular reason?
Yeah, I think that while they're a good band and the talent is exceptional and the novelty is really cool and I do like the blend, I never actually really fell in love with the songs. Like
Mm,
I never, when it comes down to it, like that is really the purest thing. There was never like a moment that sort of captured me in a holistic way where I was like, okay, not only do I like this particular moment, I actually like the whole band as a result now. I like this particular album. I like this experience that I'm having. It was always like, oh, that's interesting. That's cool. They're a talented bunch. Okay, that's kind of like on to the next one kind of thing. So I've never really sort of had that moment of connection with them. Um, that you kind of need to really delve deep into a band, especially a band like Rivers of Nile, where let's be honest, it's not like you can take or leave a kind of band like this. They require a bit of time, they require a bit of
yeah.
concentration, a bit of focus, and they require your attention. So they never quite convinced me to commit, really.
I think now then is probably it's a good time to try again on getting you, because Jake Diffenbach, who was the vocalist, he's left, and now vocals are shared, excuse me, between Adam on bass, Andy on guitar, and Jared on drums. And I think that this record captures Rivers in an interesting moment of time, because I've never heard Rivers of Nile like this. This is an interesting step for them, in the sense that this is probably the most palatable I've ever heard Rivers of Nile. And not in the sense that they
That's
have,
interesting.
not in the sense that this is like derivative of what makes them great. There are still moments of real like tenacity and aggression and technicality on this record. But just for someone such as myself, who's been listening to Rivers of Nile for a fair few years, this is personally the most palatable I have ever
Chris, when you
encountered them.
say palatable,
Yeah.
is that like coded language for like mainstream? Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't think you can say, I don't think you can say the word mainstream in a sentence with Rivers of Nile, because I think that's like, it kind of juxtaposes
No.
itself, doesn't it?
So
Okay,
delve
I
into
tell
that
you what, I
term. What
tell
do you
you
mean
what,
by that
I tell you
specifically?
what, I tell you what, right? This is probably the closest I think Rivers have been to probably being played on Kerrang radio at 7 o'clock at night.
That's interesting because I actually thought that there are moments here on this album where they are deliberately very heavy and
Oh God, yeah,
deliberately very formulaically heavy in a way that they hadn't been in extents before, where I felt that it was less, here's the nice bit, here's the nasty bit, here's the nice bit, here's the nasty bit. And I've actually sort of gone towards we're actually going to be a metal band featuring some ambience rather than an ambient band featuring some metal. I
well,
thought
I
I
was
could
going
flip
to
the switch
ask
a little
you.
bit.
I was once I was listening to this album, I was thinking, right, if they're ever gonna get Sam, it's gonna be now, because I think this is catered quite closely to Sam. Um, they got you. Has it
Yeah,
happened or nah?
this is pretty good. Yeah, this is pretty good.
Hey, let's have it, man.
This is pretty good. Yeah. I really quite like this. Um, there's some there's some moments of this that aren't necessarily to my taste. Some of the songwriting decisions are a little bit repetitive at times, but those are just sort of tweaks and sort of just I'm not a big Discords guy, like for example. Like I think those are just sounds you make while waiting for the real riff you're actually gonna do. Um and it's just like I want you to be aggressive during this moment live. That's just it's just you know what I mean? It's just like bands just signaling that they want people to be aggressive rather than necessarily a good moment in the song necessarily. But other than that, I think this is really good. I think this is groovy, this is chuggy, this is deliberately more chordal and riff heavy than I've remember from previous Rivers of Nile records. And while I enjoy the saxophone, it is nice to be have it used as like a palate cleanser rather than like a shoehorned moment in every single song and every single
Yeah, yeah,
sort of part of it. It does feel like it's been brought in as an accompaniment rather than a central figure of what they're trying to do. And for me, while musically impressive, I do find myself taking them subconsciously a little bit more seriously as a band
yeah.
when they are using that kind of that motif a little less. Because it really is hard to separate the intrusive voice in your head, making you feel like you're when the sax stuff comes in, you can imagine like some like film score or something that they're trying to capture, and it does make you think this is a little distracting from the rest of the song at times. Um, but other than that, I think the blend of musical styles here works nicely in the overall, and
Yeah.
I think this is as well conceived, constructed, and as solid a collection of Rivers of Nile song. I don't mean that as like a criticism at all. I mean that this just feels a bit more powerful, a
Hmm.
bit more thunderous, and I think they've got the dynamic a little bit better this time, and I for one appreciate it.
One thing I want to say about this album, and with more time, perhaps I would be able to think of an example, but I really can't think of an extreme metal band that use a bassist better than Rivers of Nile.
Oh,
Because
that's a great question.
honestly, Adam Biggs, he's amazing, man. He's so good, and there are some moments on this album where the way they use him that is just like on Criminals, for example, which
Yeah,
like comes with that classic Rivers intensity, but like within like 10 seconds, you can hear Adam being like this real central figure to the kind of creation and concept of the track. He's so good. That song as well. It's got this huge kill switch engage vibe on the chorus with that high speed drumming and dual layered vocal trade off. Very nice.
yeah,
And there's
yeah,
also that kind of that Rivers like they're like a set piece band. Rivers are where they'll have like a million things going on at once, and they'll just stop and they'll just have one thing going on, and that happens on Criminals because towards the end you get that isolated like drum run by Jared Klein, and it plays off against Adam's bass at the same time. It's so brilliant. There are some moments of like real musical mastery on this album, and specifically the way they use Adam on bass.
yeah. I think there's some real moments of beauty still throughout this as well. Like that's the thing is that the reassuring thing about this record is that there are some moments of just real sort of I don't know how to describe it's just sort of like ethereal kind of quality to some of their music still. They haven't lost that in the slightest. Um, I also want to shout out, I don't know which vocalist it is, but the one of them sounds a lot like Brandala, don't you think?
Yes, yes. Do you know what? I believe that the singer is Andy Thomas. I believe. Yeah, I get that Brandila reference.
And he brings that sort of nice surge of clean vocals that sort of offers a lovely juxtaposition to some of the harder riff work on here. But there are some really, really, really nice musical moments here. Like for example, the like Despair Church is one of my favorite songs on the record.
Oh,
Uh,
mate, so good. How many
re
things happen on that song?
Well, that was the thing. Like I'm just sort of looking through my notes now, and it's heavy and chuggy to begin with, and it feels methodical, and I'm like low key, a little doomy, and like at times breaks into a clean section, and you get that first traditional Rivers of Nile moment with the saxophone, but it feels very theatrical um and very enjoyable, and then breaks lovely into a guitar solo, and there's a beautiful piano to conclude, and there's just so much going on from a clearly very ambitious band, and that's songs like that really kind of encapsulate the album at its best, I think. I feel like that, um, and obviously like Water and Time and House of Light for me, the central songs of the album are really where it feels that the album's coming into its stride. Um, and it sort of really sort of moves forward in this sort of powerful melodic way, and that's where the musicianship really combines nicely with the riff work and what they're trying to achieve later. Because for me, um like to follow that with a song like Evidence is really good. Like it's a really excellent song in and of its own merits of like quite an extreme metal song, but it kind of reminds you that you'd prefer, or at least from me, it reminded me that I preferred it when they were blending different musical styles together and flitting back and forth between one and the other. Because when I just hear a purely metal song, it feels quite sparse by comparison from a listening standpoint. Because I'm finding myself hoping that they come into something clean and hoping that they find something melodic alongside some of the heavier stuff. Um, and then and then you actually hear that at times later on, and that's when it's when it's really great, sort of like the moments and at the end of at Logical End, Um, it's just the bit at the start of Rivers of Nile, the title track itself, where at its best it is still a combination of the really dark and the really anthemic, alongside these sort of like soundscapes that they appear to be creating either at the start, middle, or the end of the songs. And when it combines those two things together, it does feel like you're engaging in something that goes a little bit beyond the traditional archetypes of what a good metal album is supposed to be, and that's when it feels very, very special. Um, so for me, I'm sort of talking out of both sides of my mouth here in the sense that I appreciate that they've inserted a more traditional metal style in between some of their wider music, while also being glad that they still have found space for the wider music that makes them such a unique band to begin with.
Yeah.
Um, that's where I've sat with this album is that I'm glad that they've inserted and injected some real punch and real aggression into this album, some real violence. I mean, like you only have to listen to the start of American Death to know that at moments this is a death metal record at times.
It's the best
Um,
artist murder song I've heard in years. That is American Death.
yeah, absolutely right. But then also to combine that with this other side of the band. They haven't abandoned that in the slightest, and that's what makes them special. So I think for me, this is the album where I've come closest to thinking, not just to get it as such, but to really enjoy it of its own merits rather than just enjoying it for its uniqueness. Like to enjoy it personally, to enjoy it individually, rather than just being impressed by something. And that's where I found myself getting incredibly close to. There are three or four songs on this that I think are really, really, really great. I think they're Dustman. I think that's Despair Church. I think Water and Time, the lead single, is as good a Rivers of Nile song as I've really ever heard.
Yeah, it's beautiful,
Uh,
man. It's beautiful. Water and Time
it
is.
really is. And then the follow up, House of Light, I think is really excellent as well. Those are for me. That's where the album really just doesn't just stand on its own 2 feet, but also sort of moves the band forward as well. And I think that combination that they've managed to not stumble into, but they've managed to craft because you can tell it's so deliberately and meticulously crafted together, I think is really working for them. I wouldn't say that this is like the album that gets them, like you say, if like you're right. No Rivers of Nile album is going to get them on, like you say, Kerrang on a 7 o'clock. But if there was anyone, it would be this one.
Yeah.
It's probably the album that's most likely to get them supporting Periphery or supporting Mastodon
Yeah, yeah.
because those are two bands that I thought of while listening to this record.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's a really big step forward for a band in this particular style, where they're gonna have a series of ardent fans who will need to be supplemented with wider metal fans who find them interesting. And these kind of songs and this kind of album, I think, is the pathway to take to do that. And I'm hoping that it's successful for them because I found myself very much enjoying this.
Yeah, man. I mean, you mentioned like the ardent fan base, and I saw Rivers of Nile. I want to say about 4.5 years ago, somewhere around that time, and it was in Mama Roo's in Birmingham. Which, if you listen to how many familiar, I want to say, I don't know, was it 250 cap venue? Like
Feels like
maybe
12
even small,
caps sometimes, doesn't it?
maybe even smaller than that. And honestly, like there was just blow up saxophones everywhere, and it was class, man. It was really cool. Like the fans just adore the Rivers of Nile fans adore them, and that bleeds through. And I was one of them, man. I was absolutely loving it myself, and I think that you made a good shout. Yeah, the Rivers of Nile are never going to be like a flagship metal band. I don't think they even want that. I don't think that's part of their. I don't think that's part of their
No, I agree
trajectory.
with you.
I don't think it's part of their conversation. But if there was going to be an album that puts them on, opening, if Mastodon do a UK tour and there's four bands on, this could be the album that has Rivers maybe opening or playing second. And that's a great achievement for them because Rivers, you know, we're talking about like progressive technical death metal here. This isn't something with like a particularly wide listenership,
No,
within the context of like metal as a whole. Um, but I think this album's great. I love this. This is everything I love about Rivers with this new kind of more expansive, more palatable sound. which is I think works really well. If you take a track like Evidence, which has got that kind of expansive metal thump to its production, it's got this slithering, powerful chorus. There's a genuine unpredictability attached to it as well, because the way it switches tempos, it runs from heavy metal beatdown to progressive entourage, and it ends in a chest beating gang vocal. It is wild, man. Um, for me, one of the great standouts of the album, though, is the title track, Rivers of Nile. It's one of the shorter tracks I've ever known Rivers do. The opening looped riff is class. It's so good. Um, and this track, it builds like a Stephen King thriller. Like just slowly, this building tempo, and it explodes into this all-encompassing 100 mile per hour sprint of extreme metal. They make it's one of the shorter Rivers tracks I've ever heard, but they make every single millisecond count. My favorite, with the exception of Water and Time, which I think is it's probably my favorite Rivers song since the title track from Where Else Now My Name. Other than that, my favorite track is The Logical End, because I just think that song is stunning. Um, wouldn't be a Rivers song without a bit of sax, but as you mentioned, it's used as an accompaniment instead of a centerpiece. There's a technicality to the writing in The Logical End, which is just stunning. Really only very, very few bands that are in existence could do it, and Rivers are in the 0.5%. Like, there's just not many bands that could do this. You got this huge death metal outro, the soaring vocals that close out with those drum fills that run to the end by Jared Klein are incredible. Um, there's like this layer of brutality and force to it as well. The logical end is just like everything you've ever wanted from a Rivers song, but as well as this kind of absurd technicality and the way that they piece songs together is just truly wild. Would be what, and then obviously it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention Water and Time. God, where do you begin with that? It's aggressive, technically impressive. The chorus is stunning. The musicianship's amazing. Obviously, if you're a Rivers fan listening to it, you've already have heard Water and Time because it was chosen to be a single, and I totally understand why. But I think that is an excellent, excellent piece of songwriting, Water and
Yeah,
Time.
it's the
That that
highlight.
that and
It's
the
the highlight
logical
of the
end.
record. It's the
Yeah,
highlight of the record. The transition from the sax stuff into that massive chorus and the guitar solo and that how it all blends together pretty seamlessly is as good as songwriting as you're going to hear on this record and probably for most others that you're going to hear at some point this year because it is really, really excellent. Beautifully atmospheric, and again, it ties the knot between all the different elements of what make this band successful together in one. It's an excellent lead single, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but that it feels like a significant track for them as a band.
oh yeah, totally. And I tell you what, mate, like when the vocalist leaves, when Jake Diffenbach leaves Rivers of Nile, not really sure what's going to happen now. Because he was a founding member and a central pivotal part to what Rivers did as a band. And for them to make this record, I'm going to say the words in response to Jake leaving, but that makes it kind of seem like there was a huge fallout, which I don't believe there was. It was just
No.
they felt like that time that both parties felt like the time had come. But also I'm going to use the phrase in response, but I don't mean that in the kind of aggressive connotations. But to make this record in response of the vocalist leaving and now vocals are shared between three, I think that this is a real achievement for Rivers. I'm really ecstatic for them. You saying that this is the closest you've come to like becoming a Rivers fan speaks volumes for me.
Yeah, I really like this. I really like this and I appreciate it. And I think it deserves any casual death metal or progressive metal fan's time. Um, just as a curiosity at first, but then a real experience that I would happily recommend. This feels like an entry level album for Rivers of Nihil as well, where if you liked it, then you could sort of go back to their catalogue and find more expansive versions of what you like and
Hmm.
what you don't like about them. I think there's enough of a bridge between this and, like I said, like if you love Crack the Sky by Mastodon and you kind of want a little bit more ambience in your prog metal cup of tea, then
Here you have it. Yeah.
this is a nice leap from that, isn't it? You know what I mean? Um, so that if you like Periphery and you sort of think, all right, maybe that, but a little bit slightly less riffy is the sort of direction I could go, a little bit less harmonic, then this is also something that could sort of find you along the way. Um, And I think that's a lot to be said for their ability to be able to maintain their own integrity as a band and also seemingly attract new ones, which is just what's the whole point, isn't it, really? So I think they've done a good job, and this album should be considered a great success by them, and I think it will be.
That's a great place to leave off this episode of the Noise Podcast. Myself and Sam are going to be back in approximately 10 days or so time. We're going to be either talking about new Volbeat or new Turnstile. Depends which one, depends which one we get first. Either new Volbeat or new Turnstile being discussed. Just a reminder, the best way to support us is by liking slash following on YouTube and slash subscribing, sorry, on YouTube. You can follow the General Noise website on X at Noise UK and on Instagram for the same handle. And you can follow us on X at Noise Podcast. Thank you for your time. New Rivers of Nihil album bangs. Get it in your ears. It's out on Friday, the 30th of May. We will be back in about 10, 11 days' time discussing either new Volbeat or new Turnstile. Keep it heavy. Thank you for listening. Bye.